Before we dive in, a quick thank you to Banksia Tech for supporting this episode. Proud distributors of the Hansen Rehab Glove by Sarebo, which is what I'm wearing right now. It's designed to help improve hand movement and function at home. Whether you're early in recovery or years down the line, you'll hear more about it later in the episode. Links are in the YouTube description and in the show notes at recoveryafterstroke.com. Today's story is a rare one, but also one that more people are starting to search for. What happens when you have a stroke in pregnancy? Emily Sarah Gable was 26, pregnant with her second child and still caring for a toddler when a blood clot hit her cerebellum. What followed was vertigo, vomiting, facial paralysis, sensory loss, and the terrifying uncertainty of whether her baby or she would make it through. She was misdiagnosed, sent through maternity, cardiac, and stroke care with no clear plan. She couldn't swallow, couldn't walk, and yet somehow she gave birth safely and then began a 17-year journey of rebuilding from the inside out. This episode is about more than survival. It's about what comes after. It's about how trauma can transform and how healing doesn't end after the hospital discharge. If you're navigating stroke recovery while parenting, if you've ever felt unseen, or if you're years out and still searching for meaning, Emily's story is a powerful reminder that it's never too late to grow. Let's get into it. Emily Sarah Gable, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back, actually.
Yeah.
Last time we chatted was around 6 years ago, episode 65. We are beyond 350 episodes right now.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank
That's a,
you.
that's a lot of stroke stories. And I remember at the beginning, I had to reach out, finding the stroke survivors, dragging them over the line to get them onto a podcast because of all the challenges that stroke causes. And the podcast was fairly new. Stroke recovery type podcasts were fairly new back then. And I never expected to get to 350 episodes. And what I never thought about was getting somebody back after 6 years to talk about the journey beyond that first part of the story, And to recap your story a little, maybe I'll ask you rather than sort of tell the audience what I think it was about. Tell us a little bit about what life was like before stroke at the very beginning, and then when the stroke happened, and then what life was like after the stroke happened, because it was a very complicated time in your life. Not only did you have a stroke, there was a whole bunch of other stuff going on. Set the scene.
Yes. Well, I don't actually quite remember my life before stroke. It's really hard for me to recall, except that I know that I was frustrated and unhappy in my life. And I would not have admitted that at the time, but looking back at it, I definitely was. And I had let's see, when I had my stroke, my daughter was 15 months old, and I'd had a really beautiful home birth with her, no complications. And then my grandfather passed away. We went to the funeral in the beginning of May. This was 2008. And on the trip home, it was a plane ride and a 2-hour car ride to get home. I had really intense vertigo in the airport to the point where I couldn't move and thought I was going to be sick. And I was like, and I'd had vertigo before, but that was different that time. And I was like, no. And I had midwives. I brought it up to them, and they're like, well, you have more blood in your body because you're pregnant, and la la la. I don't know if I said that. I was pregnant again. So I was due in September. My daughter would have been like 20 months old when the new baby was born. And then 2 weeks after we got back, I was in the shower. I started spinning, the vertigo feeling. For some reason, I grabbed all my clothes, ran to the bed, started vomiting into this pile of dirty clothes. And that was a stroke. I had a blood clot in my cerebellum. I had an ischemic stroke just to the right of center in my cerebellum. So it affected my primary functions of swallowing, urinating. I had the right side of my face affected and the left side of my body. So my right eye has some deficiencies. I can't tear. I didn't know all the scope of what was going on at the time, but it turned out in the end, couldn't tear. I can't wear contacts anymore. I used to wear contacts, but I'm totally over that one. Because I can't feel the surface of my eyeball. So if there were to be anything under the contact to scratch my eye, because I don't tear, I wouldn't feel it. So they were like, just don't wear contacts again, please, for your own eye health. And I had to relearn how to walk because I had no sensation of pain or discomfort on my left side. So it was like this different kind of sensory experience walking. I also I can't feel temperature and like wet and cold, which actually is a temperature thing. So when you like put your hand in the dryer to see if your clothes are still damp, I don't know with my left hand. Everything feels the same to me. So I have to use my right hand. And even then, I'm like, help me out here. I like just put it in longer, or I just guess and take out wet clothes. So my experience in the hospital was 2 weeks in the hospital and 2 weeks in a rehab hospital. I was pregnant with the stroke, so they had no idea where to put me. They put me in the maternity unit. They put me in the cardiac unit. They put me in. I went back to the labor and delivery. I went back to the. I think I went back to like they didn't have a stroke floor.
Yeah.
So I underwent a lot of abuse from the medical system. Had a lot of inappropriate comments from doctors and interns. I was misdiagnosed with preeclampsia by an intern given, I talked about this in that episode. I was given a day's worth of magnesium infusion and told I was going to have a C-section and a premature baby who probably wouldn't live. None of it happened. I didn't have preeclampsia. So I had to kind of process all of that BS while I was like, what's happening inside of my body, or I didn't process it. I don't know if I talked about this, but my father was a raging alcoholic, and he came into the hospital. I remember the night that I had the magnesium treatment, and he came in after visiting hours drunk and like held my hand, and he was like, "It should be me in here. It should be me." And I was like, "What the hell? Come on, dude." So that was another layer on top of that, where I have this like really irresponsible, belligerent father, and I thought I was a healthy person here, like completely debilitated and hospitalized. Um, you go through the why me, it's not fair stuff, and that was part of it.
Fair enough.
Um, yeah.
A lot to
So
deal with. If
yeah,
you're going through all of that stuff and you're pregnant at the same time and you have a stroke and your regular life continues and you can't get a pause on your regular life just so you can deal with a stroke. I mean, it's too much for anyone to handle.
yeah, for
And
sure.
and it feels like it's, death by a thousand cuts. You don't realize you're in that situation until you're in that situation, and then it's too much. And then it just becomes overwhelming because it's so many things that were just, I was unhappy. I had a baby at home. I had another baby on the way. I had a dysfunctional relationship with my father.
Mhm.
I had uh, terrible treatment by the medical professionals. And all at a time where all you need is support, encouragement. You don't need any of the
Mhm.
other drama. You need somebody to help you um, make sure your baby is healthy, the other one at home is okay, and the delivery goes okay, and then you're okay. Your health and well-being is going to be okay, and it's just too much to handle. And I
Yeah.
always reflect on the the part of stroke that we actually don't have the skills and are not equipped to deal with things like that the first time that happened to us because we've maybe got away scot-free for the majority of our lives up until that moment, and then all of a sudden, the walls start closing in, and it's no, no, I can't have all this other rubbish happen. I just need to deal with this one thing. But you had no choice. You had to deal with the stroke and the birth of your baby and your uh, and your daughter,
Mhm.
who was 20 months old.
Yeah.
And how old were
Yeah.
you? If you're working on improving hand function during your stroke recovery, there's a tool that might help. The Hansen glove by Sorebo, which is what I'm wearing right now, available from Banksia Tech. It's designed for safe at-home use, whether you're just starting rehab or years down the track. The glove features 6 therapy modes, including stretching, grasping, release, and a mirror glove function that lets your stronger hand guide your affected one. It's also available as a low-cost assistive technology through various funding streams. To learn more, visit banksiatech.com.au or check out the YouTube description and show notes at recoveryafterstroke.com. Now, let's take a moment. You've just heard Emily describe the instant everything changed. 1 minute she was in the shower, the next her world was spinning. Her body was failing and she was alone with a toddler, pregnant and terrified. If you've ever had that moment where your body suddenly stopped working, where fear crept in faster than answers, you're not broken, you're in the middle of a storm. And like Emily, you're not the same person who walked into that moment. You're someone who is learning how to rise again, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually too. Let's get back to Emily as she begins to reclaim her strength, her sense of self, and what healing really means 17 years later.
I was 20. I had my 27th birthday, 26th birthday in the hospital.
Yeah.
I was
And,
young.
and pardon my French, but at that stage, we're pretty dumb as
Yeah, for sure.
as adults anyway, because
Yeah.
you're barely out of your teenage years and I'm when I say you're, I'm talking about me and
Yeah.
your father,
Everybody.
you're
Yeah.
a parent, you're doing all these things, you're taking all this responsibility. And I feel like there isn't a smooth transition into adulthood. Uh, all of a sudden, you become 18, you're an adult, according to the law, and perhaps because of circumstances, your life. Some people would have had to grow up a lot earlier because of their circumstances at home, etc. But
Hmm.
for me, I was so naive, so silly, so dumb at that age, where um, I was just winging it, just trying to find a way to get through. I remember that being probably one of the most stressful times in my life. This pretending that I was better or more capable or more knowledgeable than I was at 25. And then feeling like I don't have anyone else to go to for wisdom.
Hmm.
Even though my parents were really cool, they just didn't have Melbourne, 1996 wisdom that I needed. They came from Greece in another era,
Ah.
from parents who went through world wars, and that they didn't understand the 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 troubles and the challenges that we faced, back then and even today.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
they had a different mindset, a different idea of what it meant to endure challenges and problems and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I can't imagine what it was like to be in your shoes. What's cool about it is even through all of that stuff that you were going through at that moment, You found a way through. You still found a
Mhm.
way through. This is
Mhm.
what I love about sharing these stories is that what hopefully we're going to do is paint a picture to people who are listening, who are early on. The walls are closing in around you, and you want hope that there is a way through. There is going to be an opening somewhere, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
how did the birth actually go after all of the drama? How did the birth go?
Yeah. So I ended up back in the hospital. I had another intense spell of vertigo. They put me on blood thinners, which nowadays are inexpensive, the ones that they had prescribed, but they had just come on the market. So it was like 3,000 US dollars a month to be on these injectable, it was Lovenox, which I think now is probably free. But at the time, it was cutting edge. It was like a low molecular weight, won't affect the baby blood thinner because and stable. The other one that they put me on afterwards was Coumadin, which is less stable. So they wanted to make sure that my whatever the blood thinners were working. So they basically, when I went back into the hospital, they said you need to be on bed rest. And I was 36 weeks pregnant. And this is so fresh in my mind because I just told someone this story earlier today who asked me. Um, I was 36 weeks pregnant. They said you could be on bed rest, you could go home, but you absolutely cannot do anything except like get up and go to the bathroom. And I was like, if you went and stayed in the hospital, there's better chance that you'll be, we'd like to monitor you. And I was like, that sounds like a better idea because I have, a child and a dog at home, and I know that I won't be able to sit still. So I checked back in the hospital, waited for a week, and then they induced me. And my husband had given me a bunch of acupressure to induce labor, and he had started that, but it wasn't happening fast enough for the doctors. They got to schedule, they got to open the bed.
Yep.
So so they gave me misoprostol, which dilates the cervix, which is actually something I think they use in aborting a pregnancy. But they were, like evacuate the baby. It's time. He's cooked enough. They waited till I was 37 weeks. Ideally, it would have been 38, but they were like, we need the bed. So 37 weeks, I delivered him vaginally. I had an experience of the home birth with no drugs or anything, like totally natural. And this one was with Pitocin. I had a bag of Pitocin, which is like I don't know what they think it does, but it made a hell. Because usually when you have contractions, it's like this slow wave building up and it peaks and then slowly goes down. And with Pitocin, it's like peak, done, peak, done. There's no gradual anything. So that I did not like. But I was in labor for 23 hours and I'd been in labor for 23 hours with my previous child. So I wasn't like shocked about that. Um, and he came out real quick when I was ready to push. He came right out because he was tiny and he was healthy. And that's when I was able to start healing from the stroke because my body was growing a child. So it wasn't able to be like, what does she need? Brain, what does your nervous system need? So after I gave birth, I started having like a increase in symptoms, like more spells of vertigo, um, more feelings of like extreme temperature changes. I don't feel any of that anymore, but it was a little scary at first, but it was my body responding, like trying to. This is what I think. It was all the neural pathways rerouting. It was like where is it blocked? Where can we go? Um, I had gotten I had a feeding tube, and they had taken it out at the end of July. So I had it from May 23rd until the end of July. Um, and I had already been swallowing for like 3 weeks before it got taken out. So I had 3 weeks where I had this tube coming out of my stomach that was filling with the food that I'd been swallowing. It was really gross. Um, so it's I feel like I'm still very much in the thick of the energetic healing from that, from
Wow.
my like solar plexus having a hole punched in it.
I can relate to that. Like,
Yeah.
I because people ask me about the podcast. Your 350 episodes. They get excited. Wow, whatever. I'm not done talking about this thing. Like,
Yeah.
I know that I'm inviting other people to share their story, but part of the reason for that is because I need to have the conversation, and I
Hmm.
can't just stop talking about it. My whole entire life revolves around what happened to me. And not that it stops me from getting through life or achieving what I need to achieve in life, but it's all consuming. It never goes away. I never forget what it was like. I never wake up
Yeah.
in the morning and the symptoms and the deficits are not there. Like, everything is linked and connected. So, and for me, it's been uh, since 2012, I've been going through this, the first bleed. Um,
Hmm.
when, what year was that when the baby was born and you had the stroke?
2008.
Yeah,
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And my niece was born May 17th. No, yeah, her birthday's May 17th and I had the stroke May 23rd. So there was like a newborn in my family and it was like a celebration. And then, I have this event and I like feel terrible because I want that attention to be for this new life in our family. Yeah.
Uh-huh. But you become the center of attention and kind of
Yeah.
makes sense. It's a bittersweet moment. We've got a new birth, and then we've got to deal with
Yeah.
illness and other parts of life that's unexpected, right? So
Yeah.
people people pause um, the excitement, perhaps, of having that new life enter the world, and they're all focused on you, which, it's
Mhm.
logical, completely, totally
Yeah.
logical, makes sense. It's
Right.
necessary as
Yeah.
well. But I see what you're saying. You're kind of feeling like you stole the thunder a little bit.
Yeah. And that wasn't obviously, I would rather have not had a stroke. That
Yeah.
would have been nice. But, also at this point in my life, I'm like, I don't wish any of it didn't happen.
Mm.
I'm exactly where I need to be right now because that happened.
That's an interesting
And
comment because people
yeah.
listening now are going, and I wrote a book that is titled The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened.
Hmm.
But people going through stroke now would, and very understandably, go, "What are you talking about? How is that possible?" And I don't feel that right now. And I never felt that at the beginning either. I didn't feel that for the first 3 years or 4 years when I'm
Hmm.
bleeding
Yeah.
and need brain surgery, need to learn how to walk again, wake up with deficits. There's no way I felt that. But why do you say that you wouldn't change anything? What have been, it sounds like there's been learnings,
Oh, for sure.
lessons, and growth. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, excuse me. I had to relearn how to be in my body again. I had no idea where I was. Like, I was mad at my body. How could you have deceived me? How could you have done this to me? I thought that I was in control, like my brain, my soul, whatever. I thought that I had control of this stuff. I eat well, exercise. Like, what did I do? Why did this happen? And then so I lost trust. I had to rebuild trust. I had to rebuild like physical functions again. So I went to a geriatric yoga class and because I was like, okay, like maybe I can keep up with the pace of that. So I went and it was like packed. I put myself in the back of the room against a wall. I tried to do some balancing stuff, holding like against the wall. And I was like, yeah, there's something to this for me right now. I need this kind of thing, but I don't want to be in a class with 30 people. I want to be one on one with somebody. So the town I lived in, I sought out a yoga teacher that was highly recommended, who did Iyengar yoga. And I made an appointment, talked to her about my situation, went to her, and she goes, sit on this ball. And I was like, what? And she's like, I want you to sit on this ball. And it was this like, it was like the size of a soccer ball that was inflated, and it was like kind of soft, kind of squishy, filled with air. I couldn't sit on it. It took me a month, once a week of going to her to be able to sit on it and not fly off immediately because I was in constant state of vertigo for until December. So my stroke was in May. December is when it finally, my neural pathways figured out something else, and I wasn't in constant vertigo. So it was really challenging for me to do that. And then slowly I started to move on top of the ball and feel things like what is happening with my body on this round object. And I learned how to feel my body in a way that I'd never knew possible. And I don't know what I felt before the stroke, honestly, in my body. I wasn't paying that much attention to it. I
Mm.
just did things. You kind of take it for granted. Like, yeah, I can walk. What's the big deal? And then you can't. And then you go, how do I do that? So this was actually a practice called Yamana body rolling. And I worked with this woman for 4 years. My teacher in Maine, her name was Mariana, and I ended up training to become a teacher in this technique because I felt like it had impacted me in such a positive way. I wanted to learn how to teach it and share it with as many people as possible. So, if I hadn't had that stroke, I wouldn't have found that. So I found that. And then with that came many different modalities, footwork, working with people on a table, working on the face, TMJ issues, all the joints. And I have broken bones from when I was early. My 20s were, excuse my language, can I curse?
Yeah, a shit show.
A shit show for my body. Like I broke bones, I had a stroke, like just I got it all over with in my 20s. I have metal in my arm, I had pins and screws and metal in my ankle. So I had past injuries that I was like, oh my gosh, this is helping that. So we moved to Mexico. I um, did a lot of hands-on stuff with people there, opened my own studio because it was very inexpensive. So I was able to kind of practice on people there. They're not litigious like they are in the US. So I was able to like put my hands on people and they weren't like, why are you touching me? They
Yeah,
were like, everyone was like, great,
normal.
this is awesome.
Normal.
So, yeah, yeah. So then we moved back to the US. I realized that I needed to be like official to put my hands on people. So I went to massage school and discovered that I love being a massage therapist. Like that's my jam. Like in addition to the other things. So I got my massage license. I've been licensed for 7 years. And then I keep learning. I got my Pilates teacher certification. And now I'm working with this group called the Human Garage. They have a huge social media presence and they do something called fascial maneuvers. And it's a way for people to learn how to release the fascia, the tension in their bodies themselves. So everything I've learned is kind of about empowering the individual to heal themselves. And it all started with my own healing journey after the stroke. So if I hadn't had the stroke, I don't know that this would have happened.
I say something similar to you in that, podcaster, wrote a book, speaking, all that stuff, all because of the stroke. It definitely is. And it's like a sliding doors moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been able to reconcile this with myself yet either. If I hadn't had the stroke, I don't know whether I would have been wise enough to do the amazing things that I've done. I think
Mm-hmm.
I would have continued down that same old challenging, difficult, frustrated, annoyed, upset, angry path that I was on. Angry at everybody, everyone else was the problem. yelling at the kids for nothing, for being, teenagers. Um,
Hmm.
Probably not the best. My wife not, she might not agree in that she probably wouldn't reveal, but not the best supportive, most amazing husband ever. Probably a little bit
Hmm.
cranky and idiotic every so often. Um, and it's like, did I really have to go through this to grow up, grow a brain, become wiser, do things for other people, find my meaning and my purpose? Really? Was I that stupid that I wouldn't have done that beforehand? And unfortunately, I think the answer is yes. That
Mm.
I don't think I would have gone down this other path. I think I just would have continued trying to hurdle through space, get to the other end of it, be happy, but having done nothing to actually in, in, influence my happiness in a positive way. I don't think I would have done
Mhm.
anything and just sort of
Yeah.
got there and gone, what, this is it?
Yeah. Yeah. There's also some things that I feel like I experienced having a stroke that in our culture of, I mean, my Instagram algorithm shows me all sorts of like people who do psychedelic drugs and um lots of Pilates and like things, bodywork stuff, and then mind altering stuff. But I've never been drawn to do the mind altering stuff because I feel like I was tripping the whole time I had a stroke. I don't know what that feels like with the drugs, but I'm like, there was some alternate reality happening for me there.
Feels very similar.
Yeah.
So when I was tripping on a stroke brain after the strokes, after the bleeds and all that kind of stuff, and then since then, when I have had an experience with mushrooms or two, it is very similar. And
Hmm.
the only difference is I have been able to, while on a mushroom trip, is you seem to have some sort of conscious awareness if you're the right kind of person, because some people don't do psychedelics well. If you're the right kind
Hmm.
of person and you go into it with the right mindset, you have some kind of awareness that you're willingly in the situation that you find yourself in, that it has a
Yeah.
short time frame, that it'll end, and when you get out of it, you'll be back to quote unquote normal.
Right. Right.
That
Yeah.
was not what I felt when I was
Stroke. Yeah.
tripping because of the stroke. Did not feel that at all. I didn't know
Yeah.
why it was happening, how it was happening, why I found myself there. Is it going to end?
Hmm.
Am I going to get better? Um, what if it stays like this? I couldn't answer any of those questions, and that was scary. That
Yeah.
was the difference. That was scary. This was not. And
Yeah.
and and I think that's and being able to go to somewhere alternate, an alternate reality for a short amount of time willingly is similar to what a ultra marathon runner will do who decides I'm going
Yeah.
to wake up in the morning and run and do 1,000 kilometers, miles,
Yeah.
kilometers, whatever, for the
Yeah.
next 5 days and sleep for
Yeah.
2 hours a day for the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like it's you're you've signed up for it. It's very different. But we didn't sign up for stroke.
Right. Exactly. I fully agree with that. That it I didn't realize that until recently that this was a similar kind of thing as these as psychedelics. I had a friend explaining her experience to me with, I don't remember what drug it was, a mind altering substance. And she started to talk about it, and I had to stop. And I was crying, and I was like, honestly, this sounds like when I had my stroke, except that you knew that it was going to end. And I did not know what the hell was going on and when it was going to end. And I couldn't listen to this, like, because there wasn't the ability to control anything. And I didn't have the consciousness of like this will be over at some point. I was just like, what is going on? And all I could do was breathe. And, yeah, I was throwing up just like the people on ayahuasca, but I was throwing up and I didn't know if that was ever going to stop. And when people do that stuff, they're like, oh, it'll be however many
Part of the
hours or
journey.
whatever it is. Yeah. So I feel like I had my own, I didn't identify this until like maybe a year ago. I had my own near-death experience
Mm.
and gave me a lot of insight that I didn't realize everyone does not have. And yeah, that was that when I had that realization, I was like, oh my goodness, oh my God, I can't believe that this is my perspective now. And I didn't even realize it. I've been walking around for 16 years, not realizing that that was a huge, uh, kind of like a huge life altering journey to put it in their words of those people of that experience. But it was the stroke that did that. And uh I think the way I got through it was the support I had around me, my husband, the people I didn't know that were in my community that came and stepped up and brought food to everybody. I couldn't swallow, so they brought food for him and my daughter. Um, uh, my family, despite my dad, everyone else was really supportive. Yeah. And so one thing I wanted to say is that it empowered me. It took me a long time, but it empowered me to find my voice. So one of the things that happened when I had the stroke was I really like my voice weakened because I wasn't able to swallow. And I think it affected the muscles in general in my throat. So my voice got really weak. There was that physical, but the energetic of like, what is it that I need? What is it that I want? What are the things that work for me in life? And when COVID happened in 2020, and I think we talked in 2019. So when COVID happened in 2020, it was a intense. I think everyone went inward quite a bit, it seems. And afterwards, I got a divorce, and I am very amicably split up with my. We were married for 17 years. We're really good friends. We live a mile apart. We co-parent our kids. My daughter just graduated high school. And we're friends with each other's partners currently. And it just needed to be like that. We trauma bonded big time over the stroke, and that was very toxic. And we both recognized that. There were lots of things, but that was like what kind of held us together was this shared memory. And one thing I don't know if I ever mentioned was that we got together and I got pregnant after we'd been together for a month.
Mm.
So I didn't even know this guy for 2 years when I had my stroke. It hadn't even been 2 years that I knew him. And I had a baby and a stroke.
And he's thinking he hit the jackpot.
And then he's there like taking care of all of us. Like he should have just run away. Everyone was like, dude, he's awesome. He stayed around.
Yeah.
But he stayed around. So I was like, wow, this guy's awesome,
And he
but
was awesome, and he is
yeah, he
awesome.
was. He,
And
he is.
the thing about it is, if he's at the same age as you, and if
He
he's
was
just as
younger. He was 23.
well, if he's 23, he's just as dumb as
Yeah.
you and I
Yeah.
were at the same age. And he's
Yeah.
now, because I was a dad at 22, just a month after my 22nd birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, um, he was a teenager 5 years ago. He was in school 5 years ago. And
Right.
now he's a parent of a child with a woman he's met a month ago. And now he's dealing with a stroke survivor. Who has time for all of that stuff at 23? No one knows what the hell they're doing at 23, let alone how to manage all of that stuff. Now, I did the same thing that he did. I stuck around when I got my girlfriend back then pregnant. We became married and we're still together. Um, and for me, there was no second thought. But what it did do is it put my growth, my life, my learning, my shifting from one phase to the next on hold. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
did.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to 37, if it wasn't for the stroke, that's why I don't think I would have woken up. I
Mm-hmm.
would have just continued going, oh my God, because after my son was born in 96, our second son was born in 2000. So I'm just going hammer and tongs, work as many jobs as I can, as many hours as I can, for as little or as much as I can, and do everything I can just to keep a roof over my wife's head, my boy's head, and pay the bills and make sure the credit card works and all that kind of stuff. There was no time for me. My
Mm-hmm.
only downtime was to disconnect through alcohol or a joint, having a marijuana joint
Mm-hmm.
back then. That was the only way that I could disconnect from all the stuff that I had to endure and put up with that I had no skills to deal with because I never developed the skills. I was just thrown into the deep end and it was sink or swim. And I couldn't let down three other people. It would have been terrible. So
Mm-hmm.
I did everything I could that I thought was the right thing. The examples I had was my mum and dad, they just worked forever. My mum stopped working when she couldn't work anymore because she had a really bad back. That was it. And then dad
Mm-hmm.
and then dad worked as much as he could to achieve exactly the same thing for us that I was now trying to achieve for my kids. But my dad came from a country where there was no opportunity to work. They had
Mm-hmm.
to leave because there wasn't an opportunity to make money and work. You could work the farm and the field, but they would have been totally poor the entire time if they stayed there. So they left. And when they
Mm-hmm.
had the opportunity to work, for them, it's like all their dreams come true. Abundance of work, high paid, low paid, it didn't matter. If you had the right attitude and you asked enough people, you could find a job type of thing. And that was what
Mm-hmm.
my dad did. And I remember, he worked shift work. And I remember when I got to about the age of 18, in the job that he did, he was a waterside worker where they unload cargo, freight from cargo ships. And he said to me, you've got an opportunity if you want to. The way that they hired the next generation of employees was through family. And they just
Mm-hmm.
said, if you want to get a job, there's jobs going, just go put your name down and you'll get called up, you'll have a job. And I looked at him and thought, shift work? Are you insane? Why would I go do shift work for? I mean, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to be working when I'm supposed to be sleeping.
Mm.
And he was doing that for 20 years.
Wow.
Coming home, sleeping at 7 a.m. when we're waking up, making noise, being annoying kids and all that kind of stuff. He just put up with it all. He did not bat an eyelid. He did not complain. He did not whinge. All he did was get up every morning and meet his obligations. And and I could tell you that my dad is not spiritually connected, in tune. My dad is not, I wouldn't call him wise. He's not a wiser elder that you go to. He's a smart guy and he's done great things, but you can't go to him for emotional support because he doesn't do
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't do emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so that's how I learned. And I tried to
Yeah.
implement that, but implementing that with my upbringing, which was such a cushy, comfortable upbringing compared to what he went through,
Mm-hmm.
there was a disconnect in my soul to my reality. And my soul is going, I don't know another way. I don't have another mentor. I don't have somebody else to guide me to shine the light. Do what you know, what you learnt. And my soul's going, don't do that, don't do that. And my brain's going, that's the only thing we know how to do. Do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so difficult to get there. Your husband, I can't imagine his story. I don't know his background. But
Mm-hmm.
what I love about it is that since you've separated, you guys obviously have been able to experience personal growth, both of you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's a testament to both of you that you've been able to separate, realize that you can go your separate ways, find new partners, and still be amazing parents, and
Mm-hmm.
be kind to each other and love each other, and not be what you hear about most of the time with divorce is terrible
Yeah.
lawyer situations and
Yeah.
arguments and who's going to get the VCR and all this dumb shit that
Yeah.
not really about. It's, you know, I love that you guys have been able to find your own path separately, and
Mm-hmm.
that's brilliant. And
Yeah.
even though you started off, well, let's face it, like the way that you guys got together and married and the way that I got together, we're pushing shit uphill. We're behind the
Yeah.
eight ball. It's technically
Yeah.
not meant to work out at all. Like
Yeah.
when you start
Yeah.
in a Western democracy like that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you're almost screwed from the beginning, and you're pushing shit uphill the whole entire time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel our kids came into our lives, and I know I've become very spiritual since my stroke, because I don't know how you don't. I mean, when you have a near death experience, it's kind of like something's going to happen. So I really feel like our kids picked us. That feels so true to me, and they recognize that. My daughter and I talk about it, and they're the most loving, kind human beings, these kids. And I really don't think we have that much say over the behavior of our children. I mean, like, to a certain extent, but they are great humans, and we lucked out. We got some good ones, because I've met some parents that are really awesome people, and they just have really unruly children, and
Yeah.
they're like, I don't know what happened. Like, they come in with their own agendas, and they teach us a lot. um and I'm just so grateful that my kids are so um they've they continue to teach me so much, and that they're so loving, because that's really what, I mean, we showed them that, they saw that, and they're just so full of love. I feel kind of like high from that. I gave my daughter a massage this afternoon, so it fills me up to be connected to her in that way. And she's been getting massages since she was an infant, so she's like, I put my hand on her and she grabs it and she makes me massage her, like, even in passing. My son he's always very ticklish, so he's not as much into that, but he gives the best hugs. And he's now taller than me. He's like 6 foot tall, of course. So instead of my little boy, he's my big little boy.
Yeah. Like, you know
So
what? I I I was encouraged by the fact of how forgiving kids could be. Like
yeah.
I wasn't a terrible dad or anything, but I was properly cranky, and I used to
Mm,
misbehave as a parent, and I used to think that I was um I'm the top of the food chain. You guys all need to toe the line, and you need to be quiet, and you need to do what I say, and it never went well. They're both
yeah.
males, right? So th I should be guiding them, not dragging them along the path, and making them fit my criteria for how men should behave. They're different than me.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
one of the blessings that came from my stroke was that opportunity to deal with what I thought was my bad behavior, apologize for it profusely, like all the time, over
Hmm.
the next few years, because I
Hmm.
thought I might die and not be around, and I didn't want them to remember me as a cranky bastard. And
Hmm.
um, and now, as adults, as a 25-year-old and a 29-year-old, we have the best relationship. We have developed, it has become better and better after all the drama that I went through. But it was um, one of my goals, I suppose, to ensure that I re uh, reassessed everything in my life, especially my relationships, and then went out of my way to correct what I was responsible for, not their behavior. I didn't,
Mhm.
I didn't, and I didn't expect them to step up and correct their behavior or do anything. All I did was just became the example of somebody who realized that perhaps they were wrong in some instances and therefore altered the path and changed the way that he behaved, reacted, responded, spoke,
Mm,
etc. And that led them to come back like on their own. I didn't need to drag them in.
nice. That's awesome.
So, it is amazing. And it sounds like you've had, and this is what I love about people who come and share their learnings about stroke is even in your ignorance as a youngster in your 20s and me in my ignorance, somehow it was the perfect springboard to get us here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even though I
Yeah.
described myself as being dumb and unwise and all those things in my 20s, and I say it from a loving kindness kind of like I'm trying to play it down. I don't want to be hard on myself when I say that about my past self. But it was the perfect springboard to get me to this stage where you and I are talking about these things that have worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like there's, I see little messages and signs and everything now. Not to get really cliche, but I'm like, well, it's like the sliding doors, and I see it all the time, like every day now. I'm like, okay, that didn't happen for a reason. What does that mean for me? Maybe it doesn't happen every day, but when things like that do happen, I'm like, there's some reason why, the power went out and I couldn't use my computer, and I did this other thing and these things happened. And I feel like it's been opening me up to receiving the messages of the universe, basically. I wanted to tell you about when I interviewed with you the first time. I didn't listen to it until I was my dad died. I had to go. He was in Mexico. I got a phone call from his friend, and it was Labor Day weekend, and I was like, "Oh, this is it, isn't it?" And he's like, "I don't, no, no, no," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, he's gonna die, isn't he? Like soon." And I'm the only person. Like I'm it. I'm the only family. I'm his only child. Who was going to step up and do anything? So I flew to Mexico like right away. It was a long trip, whatever. I did all the stuff, watched him die. It took like 5 days. He was liver, kidney failure. He filled up with fluids. Wouldn't be quiet. He was moaning the whole time. It was like a pretty, bleh. I don't want to die like that. I'd rather just have an accident. I've had enough time in bed. I don't need a long suffering.
Lights
Like
out.
I'd rather just not wake up one night,
Hmm.
Like I
Yep.
don't need to suffer. I've spent enough time on my back in a bed. I don't need to be long drawn out anything.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. 100%.
Like
Just
I put in my hours. I'm
that's
good.
it. That's it. Just
Yeah.
switch it off.
Yeah. Anyway, so then I had to clean up his stuff, and um when I flew home, I was like, I'm going to listen to that podcast episode now. Like, why then? Because I was talking to my boyfriend about this last night. I love to listen to heavy shit during heavy times in my life.
Mm.
Like, I'll watch some tragic movie at a tragic time in my life. So I was like, let me listen to that podcast episode I did back in May. And I think it took a little bit to get it out, but it had been out for a while. So I got it on and I'm listening to it. And I had to transfer planes. So I don't think I listened to all of it in one sitting. And I get onto the last plane I had to fly to Newark, New Jersey, which is not a good airport anymore, but I then had to drive 2 hours home after that. So it was going to be a really long day. So I was sitting on the plane next to this guy named Bill from Melbourne, Australia.
Oh my
And
God.
he was going to visit well, he was actually from Pennsylvania, from this little tiny town in the mountains where my aunt and uncle lived. Like fifth population 50. And I knew it. I knew the town. And I had just been listening to like this podcast with you, Bill, in Melbourne. And then it was like I sat next to this guy and they'd been traveling all day from Australia and they were in their last leg. It was like Texas to New Jersey. And yeah, and we got to talking and I'm sitting there in the airplane seat. My dad's ashes are in a bag underneath the plane. And and that I was just like, whoa, like this was meant to be that I hopped on this flight and all of it lined up. So little like things like that, where it's this huge sign to me of I'm in the right place at the right time. That happens to me a lot
Yeah.
because my eyes are open to it.
I I I love that story. That's such an amazing story. Um, you're what you're I think what you're describing is when you said the lights went out and we don't have any lights and it's dark and I
Hmm.
was on my computer working and now I can't work, and what does that mean? That willingness to ask what else could this mean than just what a pain in the ass the lights,
Hmm.
that willingness to ask what else could this mean. It could
Hmm.
mean I've got more time to sit next to my daughter. I've got
Yeah.
more time to read a book. I have a memory of that day when the lights went out and everyone was running around looking for candles. Like whatever it is, I think these things happen in life to give us the opportunity to ask what else could this mean. If only you know to ask the question. I think the biggest challenge that I had as a younger person was I didn't know that there's this really cool question you can ask for everything
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
get a completely different reality from it.
Hmm.
And it's what
Hmm.
you said. It's like, okay, what else could this mean? And
Hmm.
I, I, I went to the most worst event course training program in 2011 that, oh my God, that was just a complete waste of money from what I was meant to learn there and why I went there. I got zero value. Paid five
Hmm.
grand in 2011. So
Wow.
to be there, right? Thought I was going to get all this amazing business information and I was going to come back and I was going to, you know, it was the bill that was going to work out how to work more, harder, make more money. That guy was going to this course. And at that course, I'm not sure how, but there's 10 people from that course all kind of just found each other like magnets and just woof for the 3 or 4 days that we were there, hung out with each other the entire time on all the breaks, etc. And we tried to find ourselves in the training as well so that we could interact with each other during the training. And in that course was about 3 or 4 months before I've had the first brain hemorrhage in February 2012.
Mm.
And in that course happened to be, so my brain hemorrhage, I'm a bit of a drama queen, so I dragged out my illness for as long as I could. 2012, I
Mm.
had two bleeds. 2014, I had
Mm.
a second bleed in November. And in November, I
Mm.
also had brain surgery, and then I had to learn how to walk again. So I dragged it out all for about the best part of about 3 years when I was in the thick of the drama,
Mm.
not the healing, kind of still the tough part
Hmm.
of stroke. And and in that course was a guy who his name was David. I've written about him. I have an acknowledgement in my book about him. He used to say to me, "Why don't you just come to meet me for lunch at my office on this day?" And I was at home, not working, uh, tripping out of my head all the time because I was dealing with stroke and all that kind of stuff. there was a blood clot in my head about the size of a golf ball, just, impacting all my brain and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't capable of doing almost anything, yet somehow I would find myself at lunch with David and he would give me an hour of his time once a week or twice a month, something like that. And that's the only time I ever interacted with him in the
Mm,
course. And then 7 or 8 months later at lunch with him, he would, I don't know, like it's like he gave me some meaning, some purpose, something. And after
mm-hmm,
that time, the only other time he interacted with me was there's another course I'm going to, you should attend it. I went to that course with him, and that was in 2014. We did the course, and um, I haven't interacted with him again.
mm,
But the learnings that I got from that guy and that interaction, the guy who turned up just at the right time, a few months before the stroke, who
mm-hmm,
reached out to me, who I didn't reach out to, who reached out to me and helped me in for no return whatsoever, just blows my mind. My best friend, another lady who was at that course, her name's Louise. She and I have been as thick as thieves, although we don't see each other too much, since then. And she was my coach, my first life coach, confidant, major cheerleader, um, just the most amazing person who every time I needed to get through a tough time, she would happen to just call at the most
mm,
perfect time. And now she's going through a bit of a tough time herself. So I've been that person for her. That happened at that most terrible, most ridiculous, expensive course. And in that course, there was another two or three people who I still see now, one of whom has had a stroke just recently and
mm.
reached out to me to go, I've just had a stroke. And I'm like,
Wow.
I've got you. No worries.
Mm-hmm,
So it's such a weird thing. It's like, um, what that course could have been, what a waste of money. I'm never going back. I don't want to do any of that stuff again. I'm never doing another course again. It actually became, what else could this be? What else could I turn
mm-hmm,
it into? And I turned it into the most amazing, supportive, friendly, caring, loving friends that far that has paid a dividend far more amazing.
mm-hmm,
And my return on $5,000 is just, you can't put a price on it. It's just unbelievable.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I feel you're that's how you're moving
Yeah,
through life.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I also right now, eventually, I forget. I don't really, I think it's since my divorce, I'm very particular about how I spend my time and with whom. Like, I have no tolerance for spending time with anyone I don't want to be around. Like, that just to me, I'm like, why? Why would I? Why would I do that? There's no reason. Like, I have two dogs that I love. I'd rather be home hanging out with them.
Yeah.
Or my kids, but and doing things that don't appeal to me. When I was younger, maybe, definitely when I was in my early 20s, I'd be like, let's check it out. Like, let's just see. And now, nah, why would I do that? If I didn't see anything appealing in it, for some reason or another, I'm not going to try. It's not that I don't want to try new things. I just don't feel like everything is worth my time because I know how important it is for me to feel rested, to feel like I'm loved and being somewhere where I'm like completely disoriented and maybe I have to like sleep less or I don't know what, different scenarios. I have no interest.
If it's not filling your cup,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
it's not about
Yeah.
being disconnected. It's not about being, uh, you're not doing it through lack of, for or through fear. People do
Yeah.
do you know, agoraphobia. I'm not going in there because I'm fearful. I'm not avoiding it because it's a tough walk. I'm not avoiding it because I'm avoiding it because it doesn't fill my cup. It's a completely
Yeah.
different reason. It's like what you're doing is prioritizing your desires, your needs over somebody else's needs and desires.
Yeah. And one of another thing that I do that is a perspective that I've gained more from when I broke my ankle, but also from my stroke. I park as far away from the store as I possibly can because I can walk. Every time I'm like, yeah, there's a space that's close by, but I can walk. So I'm going to park far away and I can walk.
Mhm.
And that's the reason why, honestly. And you know, I don't take it for granted because there's been so much of my life when I haven't been able to walk. I had a handicap sticker and I did not like it. I did not enjoy being in that place where I had to be close to where I was going because I couldn't figure out how to walk. So, now I'm like, I'm going to park far away because I can.
Yeah.
And
Gratitude is
yeah,
an interesting concept as well. I think what you're talking about
yeah,
is gratitude for what you have regained and what has come back. And even for people who haven't regained the level of walking that perhaps they wanted to, maybe there's
yeah,
other areas of gratitude that they can tap into. What they can
yeah,
do, push yourself in a wheelchair,
yeah,
access an
right.
electric wheelchair. Like, I don't know what it is for you, but you need to find the thing that you can be grateful for.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
relate to what you said about the parking. Okay, so I have my wife and I, we go out with a couple who is a friend of mine. The lady's a friend of mine from school, so I've known him forever. Her partner is an amazing guy, but he does the let's drive around the block a few times to get the closest spot. And
Hmm.
I'm like, we're in the vicinity. There's a spot.
Yeah,
Why don't I just park there? And he'll always go, "What? We have to park 3 kilometers away." And I'm like, "Doesn't matter, man. We'll walk. It's not too far. We'll get there. We'll be fine." I'm all about just going, okay, here we are nearby, grab that spot, let's go. And then, of course, just so he can harass me even more, as we're walking down further to the venue,
oh,
he's
there was a
saying,
spot closer.
there's
Yeah.
another one, there's another one. Why couldn't we park there, Bill? I don't know, man. It doesn't matter. We parked already. We're good. The car's safe. We're walking. It's all good. We're going to get there. And then we'll
Yeah.
walk back and we'll burn off some of the calories that we're going to consume, if we
Right.
have too much to eat or whatever. And then the other thing I do is escalators and stairs. So if I find
Yeah.
escalators and there's stairs next to them, it sucks walking on the stairs because my left leg seizes up and it's hard and I've got to hold onto the rail and everything. But I always take the stairs for
Yeah.
exactly the same reason
Yeah.
because and it blows my mind when I see people, those travelators, the ones that you see at the airports.
Yes. Yeah. We call them people walkers. I
Yeah,
don't know why, but yeah. That
where
just like
people
move. Yeah.
where people walk on stand on them and then stop moving so
Yeah.
the travelator can do the job for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you stopping on this thing?
Because
And
they want to look at their phone.
maybe, yeah, or why when the escalator is going down, I can understand if you're not walking up an escalator because you might
Uh-huh.
not be able to, it might be hard. I get it.
Yeah.
But when the escalator is going down, for most people, that's a doable task. You can still walk while the escalator is going down, and you can still walk on the travelator. And I'm like you. If I'm on a travelator because it's a very long distance to the terminal,
Hmm.
I'm walking on the travelator. So I'm just getting that to get me there a little bit quicker, 30 seconds quicker. And
Hmm.
the staircases, I always take the the stairs instead of the escalator or the or
Yeah.
or the lift, what we call the lift, you guys call the elevator.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually get really dizzy on those, what you're calling the travelators.
Yeah.
I can't go on them. because I think it's the speed. I don't know, because riding a bike, you go fast, but when I stop, my brain hasn't caught up. And so I get kind of vertigo when
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm like, whoa, I get really disoriented, but I also get really disoriented flying in an airplane too.
How?
Um, uh, the relationship of my body to the ground, like and that feeling when I had the stroke, it was like the ground dropped out from under me and there was no up or down, left or right, side to side, like nothing. And it was just like I was existing in space, but I didn't know how. And so I, when I fly, I can get into a state like that really easily when I'm disoriented in my surroundings. So only being able to see what's inside the plane, but feeling things is like it messes, and it's also anxiety for
Uh-huh.
sure.
Uh-huh.
Like I don't really like the idea of flying, but then
Yeah.
it's just disorienting for my brain, for
Yeah.
my sense of balance.
Yeah. Humans are not meant to be in the air
Yeah.
in a tin can. Like,
Right, right. Yeah.
uh,
It is a weird experience in
yeah.
general, but after the stroke it's like definitely a lot weirder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
And
appreciate.
traveling, being exhausted from traveling. The last time I flew was last year. My kids and I went to Puerto Rico and our flight was delayed by 8 hours and we got home at 6 a.m. It was long day and I was so exhausted. I can't sleep on planes for this very reason of this disorientation. And like if I close my eyes, I start spinning. So it helps me to keep my eyes open even when I'm exhausted. And I got home and I was sick for a week. And I knew, it's like I knew when it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's like when they said the plane was delayed again and again and again, I was like, oh no, I can't not sleep. And my kids are like, you'll be fine. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I need sleep. I have to sleep
Mm.
in this body at this point in my life. Like it's not a negotiable thing.
I'm the same as you. The time zones, the changing of time zones really puts me out of whack. And that I need to sleep thing,
Yeah.
that is, yeah, it's a not I should sleep or I could sleep. Like I must sleep. I have to sleep.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I know that too because I am then not capable of doing anything or being in the world, in the world that I
Yeah.
need to be in the next 2 or 3 days if I don't get sleep. And I'm the same. I don't sleep on planes. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Um, and then you suffer the consequences. And I kind of almost think about, wow, um, was it even worth it? But of course, being away with somebody in a different place, doing something, meeting your family, whatever, it's all worth it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
geez, it's such a big price to pay afterwards on the return.
Sure. It is definitely 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're 17 years post now.
Yeah.
What's what do you live with? How connected are you to that whole stroke journey? I know that we've
Yeah.
spoken about stroke and all that stuff. And I talk about my stroke like it's something that happened to me in the past. So I'm not kind of connected to it, although I live with the deficits of it and the daily challenges
Hmm.
that that causes.
Hmm.
I've almost separated the two things that are happening now to what the events of the past were like.
Hmm.
It's kind of my new normal. Weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's it like for you to experience yourself now, 17 years post?
Yeah. Um, well, I still have these lack of temperature sensations, although I have regained some of that on my face, which I like on a really hot day a few years ago, I held up a cold drink to my face and I was like, oh my God, I can feel that it's cold. And I was so excited because that wasn't possible before. So the doctors say, which I call medical vexing, you'll never feel like this. You'll never do these things. And I just think that's a bunch of BS
Yeah.
because, that's why that's why I call it medical vexing. It's like they're telling you that's not going to happen. I'm like, how do you know? So they're like, if you can't feel the change in, a year, then it's probably always going to be like that. Well, that's not true. I really think that anything is possible. So, people that are listening that think, oh, I'm never going to walk again. I'm never going to be like this or that again. Anything's possible. Really, anything is possible. And I didn't put my mind to like, I'm going to feel temperature again on my face, but it happened. I had a feeding tube to my stomach, so I have like a second belly button. Um, I have problems swallowing still sometimes, like when I'm stressed. Um, I can't eat rice in combination with anything. Like if I eat rice and vegetables or rice and chicken, like if I'm chewing the things in my mouth at the same time, I can't swallow it, but I can eat just rice. I don't know what that's about. So in general, I don't eat that much rice. Or like a bready thing, like a scone or something like that. A lot of times I can't swallow it, or pizza. But I have realized that a lot of it has to do with my vagus nerve and being like relaxing myself. And then my swallowing mechanism starts up again. I had a lot of that happen when I was in the divorce phase of my relationship with my ex, and I wasn't able to swallow a lot when I was with him. And then once we split up, that stopped, and I was like, "Oh, interesting. Okay, that was a stress thing." But I really do think that the swallowing mechanism is related to the stroke,
Yeah.
since that was gone. Um, I have worked really hard to regain balance. That was a really difficult thing for me to do, was that bilateral, like, can I balance on the right foot? Can I balance on the left foot? How is that? And it just takes work and consistency to keep practicing, like little by little. Um, just spending a couple minutes on it a week, even, I've progressed to now I can do like I can keep one leg down on the ground and have one leg up and reach down and touch the ground without needing to fall over immediately, and not keeping the other. I started with just kickstanding my leg, the opposite leg, and not even going down to the floor. And you just like progress just little every time. And I feel more confident with that than I ever did before. So, if I weren't to practice balance stuff, I would quickly be out of balance. So it's like, it's not like, oh, I did that, now I've reached that goal, now I'm done. It's like, no, you just got to keep working on it all the time. Yeah.
You
So
seem
those are the main things.
you seem calm, and when I spoke to you last time, you even seemed calm, kind of like very thoughtful, very deliberate with your actions, with the things that you go about. Were you calm during the tough times, during that time when everything was happening at once and coming out of nowhere?
Um, mm, I think I was, because I didn't have much of a voice. Yeah, here comes my baby. Let me say hi. This is my this was my baby in my belly. He's interviewing me about my stroke.
G'day, mate. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, good. Let us know if you don't want this on the podcast. We'll edit it out, but if you do, it's staying.
I don't mind.
Hey, it's good to see the person who was in the belly 17 years ago when your mum was going through all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's a healthy tall boy.
Yeah, fantastic. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that I think I was calm. I don't know that I was able to express myself the way I would have wanted to, because I was so disoriented and so confused. Um, Yeah, I think that's part of why I had so much like medical um mistreatment because I wasn't able to speak up for myself.
Okay, makes complete
Yeah.
sense. Yes.
Yeah. But the one thing that I was able to draw on was my breath. And that's been something that I keep coming back to is realizing like, oh, I'm breathing. And that's what qualifies us to be alive is the breath.
So from all of that stuff, you just narrowed it down. That's one thing. I'm doing that. That's where we start. It's a breath.
Yep. Yeah. When in the MRI machine, when the things are banging, I couldn't swallow. I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going on. It was just breathe. And then watching my dad die, I watched it happen. He took his last breath. I mean, that's real. You're not alive when you don't breathe anymore. So, we're all here hearing things and we're breathing. And that's what I always come back to is my breath. I can breathe
Mm.
and consciously breathing. And I teach different movement modalities, but the center focus of all of it is breathing and bringing yourself to your breath.
I I've had headaches for probably the last 6 months, and I've been trying to
Yeah.
get to the bottom of it. At the beginning, I overlooked it. I didn't think about it. It was this, it's that. I need a paracetamol. I need this, all sorts of things. Anyhow, it's gone to the point where enough's enough. So
Yeah.
I went to the GP and I said, I need a MRI. Get us an MRI. That was about 3 weeks ago. I went and did the MRI. And exactly what you said, go in the machine, it's making all the noise. And I'm not typically claustrophobic, but I tell you what, I don't enjoy being in an MRI, especially the amount
Right.
of MRIs that I've had in the last
Yeah.
13 years, 14 years. And uh and I started to freak out. And before I went in, I'm not even in yet and I'm getting worked up about it. And I just started breathing. That's exactly what you said. I just started breathing. I breathed my way through it. And because I was doing such a good job, 27 minutes went by really quickly. I didn't know the time frame. And the nurse, the I think it was a nurse who was in there said, "Hey, how you going? Are you okay?" And broke me out of my focus and my concentration. And as soon as she said that, no, get me out. I got to come out.
Yeah.
She comes out, she gets me out, and I said to her, "How much longer do we have left?" She said, "Oh, we only have 3 minutes." I said, "Okay, give me a few minutes. Let me start breathing, and then once I calm myself again, we'll go in for the next 3 minutes." And sure enough, we got through it. It was the only thing
Hmm.
that was going to get me through it. Being in my head, trying to convince
Hmm.
myself wasn't going to do it. Not one bit. And
Yeah.
and it was just such a gift to have that. So, long story short, is MRI is clear. There's nothing in my head that is
Nice.
causing the headaches. But today's Friday. We're recording Friday Melbourne time. Sunday, a few days ago, I was in hospital because my blood
Mhm.
pressure had got to 170 over 110,
Wow.
and it was like that for about 2 days. And I thought, forget this. I think I'm going to go to the hospital. Got them to check me out. They did a CT scan. That proved to be clear as well. So now I've got an MRI and a CT scan. Soon we're going to go to the neurologist to compare them to the old ones from 2016 when I did my last one, just to make sure nothing's changed. But what they diagnosed was high blood pressure.
Hmm.
So out of
Hmm.
nowhere, now I'm dealing with high blood pressure, which
Hmm.
um, isn't such a bad thing because, this day and age, you can get a little tablet, take it once a day, it,
Yes.
and all of a sudden the headaches are gone. My blood pressure's come back to normal. When you check it, it's back to normal.
Yeah.
I can feel it
Yeah.
when it's high because my head starts hurting. And I go and see my chiropractor. My chiropractor is uh, they call them a network chiropractor. They don't crack.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yep.
Yeah. They just touch. And
Hmm.
what is the first thing he say about high blood pressure? Start breathing. Just learn how to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. I'm listening.
Yeah. I have had high blood pressure and I'm on blood pressure meds right now for that very
Yeah.
thing. I was getting headaches and every time I would go to the doctor, my blood pressure would be high, like just for whatever checkup. And I'd say, I have white coat syndrome because
Yeah.
I do. But they were like, okay, get a blood pressure cuff at home and do it there,
Which is what I did.
And then I was like, that's fair. And it was high at home. And then finally I went to the GYN, the gynecologist, and she was like, stop it. You're taking this medicine now. Don't BS me about this white coat thing anymore. Like you need, and I stopped having headaches and I'm like, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
Because I had these horrible memories of they gave me beta blockers for blood pressure when I had the stroke, which made me feel so terrible.
Uh-huh.
And they don't have to give you those. There's other things. The beta blockers just made me feel like really disoriented and out of it. They made me dizzy, and then they give you medication to make you not dizzy, but that can give you high blood pressure. Like everything causes the other thing. So I had to like wipe that clean in my mind, got something, and that really helps. Yeah.
I just I've had 30 at 37 I had brain hemorrhage. At 40 I had brain surgery. At 42 I had thyroid surgery to remove half of my thyroid because it had
Wow.
an enlarged gland, a goiter, what they call a goiter. So I had to deal with
Hmm.
that, recover from that. And now high blood pressure just out of nowhere. Well, what seems like out of nowhere. I don't know how long I've had it for because I've never had any symptoms that would suggest that there was something wrong until all these crazy headaches for months now. And I have to remind myself because I did the whole why do I need to have this now? Why does this need to happen? But I have to remind myself about the whole um going I often say in my podcast when I speak to people is you're not going to get through life unscathed. If you get through life and you're at 99 and nothing has ever gone wrong for you, you haven't lived. You haven't lived a life. And it's like, okay, I could get down about this as well and have to deal with this as well. Or I can just be grateful that there is a little pill that somebody came up with that helps to bring it down and is going to extend my life. And
Hmm.
I'm not going to
Hmm.
have another stroke because of high blood pressure, another hemorrhage, because that's
Yeah.
that's where is heading if you don't deal with it. I know I've interviewed tons of people who have had a brain hemorrhage because of high blood pressure that they neglected or didn't know they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just, oh well, here we go. Here we go again. Learn something from this. What can I learn from this? What can I
Yeah.
do to guide people, encourage people, tell them it's going to be okay? Maybe I can live with 10 different bits of me missing and 7 ailments and still be living a meaningful and purposeful life. Maybe that's definitely possible. Why not?
Hmm. 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 And it might just be also like little tweaks that can be done. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Like I've with the blood pressure thing, I've been listening to some like scientific information about like how to address it with exercise, like the most targeted, specific ways. And I was on a roll of doing this and then I got Lyme and my energy level just plummeted and I was like, well, I'm not doing that anymore.
Well, there you go. Tell me about Lyme.
Yeah.
Like, what is that and how does it manifest or what does it feel like?
Yeah. So I had a tick bite. I had a tick embedded in my side.
Did you know?
And yes, well, it had been inside, it had looking down towards my torso, my breast was in the way, blocking it. So I didn't see it, which sucks. Because if I had actually seen it, I would have been like, there's a tick. but I felt this thing on my side that I thought was a scab, but it was really like a tick embedded in me. And you must not have Lyme in Australia. Hopefully it hasn't made it there.
I've never heard
But
of it in Australia,
yeah,
but I know of people who have had it. I think always the
yeah,
people I've heard have had it, picked it up somewhere else, I think.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I feel like it's not a big problem here, but it must be.
Yeah,
I
it's a
might be naive.
really dense, there's so many ticks in the Northeast where I live. And so, I take my dogs for a hike and pull like 20 off of them that are crawling on their skin. So we did a full tick check. Like before we came in after the hike, I took off my clothes, took a shower, got dressed. We went out, came back. That night, I was like, it feels like a scab. That's interesting. But I was so tired, didn't think anything of it. Went to sleep. The next morning, woke up, took a shower. After the shower, I'm like getting dressed and I'm like, oh, that's a tick. But so it had been embedded in me for at least probably 12 to 15 hours, maybe even 24. Sometimes they fall off, like it might have been on the dog and it was crawling on the floor and then crawled up on my leg. They're sneaky little buggers. They're kind of like creepy the way that they just appear.
The aliens,
And
aren't
yeah, and it was a bigger one. Everyone says, oh, deer ticks are the only ones that carry Lyme, which are these tiny little, but it was a bigger tick. I call them dog ticks. I know that's not what they are formally, but it's bigger. You can see it. Like it's pretty obvious what it is. It's the size of like the top of a pen, we'll say, like the part that is rounded at the top,
they? Uh-huh.
not where you write, but the other end. The
Yeah.
deer tick is like the point of the pen. It's tiny.
Wow.
So we pulled it out, but the head was stuck in it. But apparently it doesn't matter if it's infected, the longer it's in you, the more chance that you are to have something. So that week I was feeling really achy in my sacrum. And I was like, and I thought it was transference because I had a client that had a sacrum issue that week. And I was like, this is weird because I'm really good at my boundaries with clients and like not taking on their stuff because I would be a wreck if I did.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's weird. I must have taken on her stuff. I have these weird aches in my sacrum. And then, and that was like maybe Tuesday. And um, I don't know, I was just feeling like a little weird achiness that wasn't like I normally do. And then it was, I took my daughter to a concert. She was really sick. She had a cold. She was like in bed on Saturday, and Saturday afternoon, it was like I hit a wall, and it was like really bad flu symptoms, like fever, achy joints, sweating, freezing cold, all that stuff. And then it was Mother's Day, and I was like, oh God, I don't know what is happening to me. And I felt like, you know, all out of sorts. I had really intense brain fog, which I'd never experienced before fully, where it was like there was like it was like my glasses had, it would be like if you wore glasses with a foggy lens all the time. It's the only way I can describe it. I just felt like I couldn't think clearly. Like I was like, okay, I'll just watch TV. And even that, I was like, I don't even know what I'm watching. Like, what's the point? I just wanted to sit and like stare, like zone out. And then I took myself to urgent care. Like I was hoping my kids would be like, I'll take you, but I took myself. And the person there was like, I'm not even going to test you because every single symptom I had was Lyme, and I had the tick bite. So he took the tick head out, prescribed me 28 days of doxycycline because that's been proven to like knock um it's a bacterial infection, and what happens is the antibodies stay in your body for forever or for a long time. But if it goes unchecked, it can enter your nervous system, your cardiovascular system. Like all these different parts of your lymphatic system. So it attacks the immune system, but then it can attack people can have like really intense cardiac symptoms, respiratory symptoms like years down the line if they didn't know. So I know a lot of people that, maybe they got bit by a tick 2 years before, and then they're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And it takes a while for them to figure out they have Lyme. They go through around, the doxycycline at that point is doing something, but it's really good if you get it right away. So I got it right away. Taking the doxycycline absolutely sucked. I felt nauseous every day for 28 days. The first 2 weeks, like the first week, I was still like bad flu symptoms, didn't leave my couch basically. I didn't work. I couldn't do anything. Week 2 after that, I was moving around a little bit more. I still didn't feel like completely myself. And then the last 2 weeks of it, I felt better enough. Like I was going to the gym. I wasn't doing anything crazy, but I was just trying to move my body a little bit. And then I finished it on June 8th. And then I had talked to a woman about this, and she said the day I stopped taking it, I felt like a different person. And maybe it was because I heard her say this, but that's what happened. I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm done. I'm free.
And also
And
because June the 8th is my birthday.
yes, I knew you were a Gemini. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Yep.
So that
Yeah,
was
I
it.
am
Was it done
too.
in, you're a Gemini too?
Yeah, June 13th.
Ah,
Yeah.
very cool. Very cool. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
were you June 8th, everything kind of settled, and then was it okay after that?
Yeah, June 8th was actually the night of June 8th was my last dose. And then June 9th, I woke up and I felt better. I'm taking some like really powerful herbs right now that I'm probably going to take for the next 6 months to like support my immune system. That it's part of a Lyme protocol. So I take those once a day. And yeah, I'm just trying to sleep when I need to, stay hydrated, be gentle with myself.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
those are
really
like,
important. That's really
yeah,
important.
those are things that I learned after my stroke. Like,
Yeah.
have grace with myself. Like, don't think that I should be doing something if I'm like, if it's a hard no intuitionally, then I'm just not going to do it, you know? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Be kind with yourself. It's such a great thing to learn, and then to be able to apply it to many different things in life. Oh, I made a mistake. That's all right. Be kind to yourself. I, I
Yeah.
I was really hard on myself, actually, probably about 2 weeks ago, beating myself up about a business decision that I made that cost us 6 grand.
Wow.
We don't have a spare 6 grand to just lose on anything, right? I don't know who does, but I definitely don't. And
Mm-hmm.
oh man, I didn't sleep for literally, you know, I'm pretty that night and the night before. So for about 2 nights, I just had myself in this space, this mental space of like being you idiot, this and that, which I normally don't do. I don't normally do that to myself. But what it also impacted was my business partner, not just me. And that made it a little bit worse.
Mm,
And I felt bad for what I had done for him and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, and I kind of needed him to get me over the line, to almost forgive me for having done it. I went and saw him and we had a conversation about it. So what I did was, instead of, I have a property maintenance business. So when you charge people $10,000 to do something at their house, the only thing in the last 20 years, the only thing I ever get pulled up for is, oh, I think you forgot to do that thing you said you were going to do as part of the
hmm
10,000. Okay. Oh, sweet. Sorry about that. I'll go and get it done for you. What I did was that $10,000 price, for example, I told the customer that includes all this other work that they didn't actually ask us to do.
mm,
So I gave her a price at the beginning 2 months ago. This is stroke brain impacting these decisions. I gave her a price to do 10 tasks. I knew it was in writing, in email, in the quote, everywhere. And when I sent the boys to do the task, and when I was with them on site, I said to them, "You're doing these 10 tasks," but for some reason, I added another task
Mm.
that the customer didn't ask for, wasn't getting charged for, didn't expect. And I had 4 guys spend 3 days doing this task that wasn't part of the job. And the customer rang me and said, day one, and said, I'm not sure. Are we still in the scope that we spoke about? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. The guys are going, they're getting done. She goes, I'm not sure if we are paying you to do this extra work. I said, no, you definitely aren't paying extra for it. You're paying the amount that we agreed to on the quote, etc. And she's going, are you sure? And I'm going, yeah. And then I worked it out about 2 or 3 days later. The coin dropped, and it's like, oh my God, I am spending money to do something that the customer hasn't asked for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was a downward spiral after that. It was, you idiot, you this, you that, you can't sleep, your business partner, the guys, all these things just it got out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
I had the forgiveness of my business partner, and that made it a little better. And then I had to do that to myself. I had to forgive myself and
Yeah.
just do the thing that I keep doing, because strokes cost me way more than $6,000. Hundreds of thousands of dollars stroke has cost me.
Yeah.
I have to do the only way I got through that was to say, in a scheme of a lifetime, even if it's $200,000, like, doesn't make a difference. Like, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. Really doesn't matter. Sure, it was amazing to have it if I could have. So the 6 grand doesn't really mean anything. It's a terrible mistake. It means that, we're going to struggle to pay this bill for 2 weeks compared to just being able to pay it and move on, our supplier and all
Mm-hmm.
that. But that's all it means.
And
So,
you're never going to make that mistake again.
well, I don't think so, because now we're going to
Yeah.
implement a solution, and the solution
Yeah.
is to have my business partner have access to see what I see when I'm quoting. And when I'm at the site, he's already seen all of that stuff, and I'm not delivering it to him for the first time, because I'm the quote guy. He's the on the
Mm-hmm.
tools guy, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
delivering it to him the first time, and he's taking my word for it because I haven't made that type of mistake before.
Yeah.
Whereas now I have to have a measure in between us, because he can't trust me either. I've told him not to question
Mm-hmm.
something that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
sound right, because he just took my word for it. So we've learned a
Mm-hmm.
lot from it, and that's another thing, another lesson that came from it, and growth and opportunity there. But being hard on myself, I really, for the first time in a long time, had to say, be kind to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the biggest lesson. I really do think the biggest lesson from the stroke overall, from all of the experience, was I have to be kind to myself. When I have clients on my table and there's so much negative self-talk I hear coming out of their mouth, I'm like, it's hard for me not to just say, like, please be nice. I do say, I'm like, you have nicer words for yourself than that,
Yeah.
you know. And my dad used, my dad had things that he'd say that were like little nuggets, and he would say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I'm not perfect in saying nice things to myself all the time, but I catch myself a lot, and then I'm like, oh, I'm just not even going to say anything to out loud. Like, I'm not going to even have that thought.
It applies to other people. You wouldn't treat your
Yeah.
worst enemy like your friend like that. Uh,
Yeah.
if you don't have anything nice to say about someone, don't say anything at all. Well, that lesson is applicable to us as well, about ourselves, our own self-talk.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes we forget to apply those nuggets to us, and we just apply it to other
Yeah.
people, and we make it all about others, and we forget about what we do. You know,
Yeah.
We make
Yeah.
ourselves feel bad and all that kind of stuff. And then we change our own neurochemistry and we change our own emotional health and well-being, and we're responsible
Mhm.
for that. We're the only ones who have
Yeah.
to step up.
Yeah.
That's a great lesson to learn. You know, I really appreciate you reaching out and joining me on the podcast again. It is great to catch up with you again and to share
Yeah.
the the journey of somebody who is 17 years post stroke and has been through turmoil and come out the other side. And I think a lot of stroke survivors are probably doing the right thing, just focusing on now, how to get through now. And once you
Hmm.
come to the other side of that, you're a great example for how you can um, how you continue to live and grow, overcome, learn, discover,
Hmm.
change your life, endure the tough times, the challenges. And it's also really good for me to see that because I'm not 17 years post. I'm just a little bit before that. I'm about 13.
Hmm.
It's a great reminder that
Yeah. Yeah.
normal.
And I just want to share one thing. I had someone reach out to me over Instagram because they heard my interview with you on recovery after stroke because his wife had had a stroke while she was delivering. I can't remember the details. And I think it was a couple years ago, but it was the husband was reaching out to me of like, I could tell in a panic and had found your resource and found my episode of like pregnant and stroke. And I just suggested like get as much support around you, like take care of yourself as the caregiver. And obviously your wife needs like all the support that she can get, but you also need the support. And that was my advice for him was to, as the caregiver, make sure that you're not forgetting about yourself. And also, obviously she needs that support around her. Yeah.
She'd have the hospital team, doing their thing to an extent,
Yeah.
but there's no point having a sick caregiver because they've neglected themselves and put themselves into uh, caring and looking after and doing everything for the person who's unwell. Two
Yeah.
two people unwell at the same time is
Right.
a
Right.
disaster.
Yeah. So I hope that the all the people in that situation are doing better, and I would imagine it's hopefully behind them at this point. I can't remember when that was. It was in the past 2 years, probably.
Yeah, I have in the past 2 years as well, and you know, people reach out and give me credit, but the reality is the people who reach out and give me credit wouldn't be in a position to do so if they hadn't, if this podcast wasn't a compilation of two people coming together to do an interview and talk about stroke, and then
Mm.
grow Google's what Google thinks about whether we should send this information to people searching for stroke um, resources. So I had a lady reach out and say that because of one of my interviews, she avoided having a full blown stroke because she had a carotid artery dissection. And when she typed the symptoms into Google, somehow my episode came up and she listened to it.
Wow,
And her
that's
husband,
amazing.
yeah, her husband was about to fly interstate for work. I think he's in the army in the United States.
Uh-huh.
She told him, "Do not, you can't go. There's something wrong with my neck. I think I'm going to have a stroke." He took her to the hospital, and basically, she went to the hospital and said, "I have a carotid artery dissection. You guys need to scan my neck." And they scanned her neck. They um, found the carotid artery dissection. They put in a stent and avoided her having a full blown stroke.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's really awesome.
yeah. And I'm happy to receive the credit, but credit is also to the rest of the people who have joined me on the podcast, because together we've all created, and everyone has contacted me and said, I want to share my story. It's time to share my story. It's partly about them, but it's also partly about helping other stroke survivors.
For sure.
So weird that people are going through stroke and already thinking about other stroke survivors that they want to help. It's weird in a lovely way. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. I know I receive emails. I love being a connector because I can't support all these people. I don't know what it's like to have a stroke during pregnancy. So
hmm
it's brilliant that people are reaching out and going, can we connect to that person? I've not met a
Yeah.
single stroke survivor who I've interviewed who has had a request for a connection that has said, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to talk to that person.
Right. Yeah.
Just brilliant. I
Yeah.
love that we have this community now. I need it. I made a kind of a pact to do 1,000 episodes to myself. I think I'm
Nice.
going to go for 1,000.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's not going to be a lack of candidates to join me.
Right. Yeah. And every stroke is so different. So
Yeah.
it's like there's like different flavors, you know?
And there's so many ways to get to stroke as well.
Yeah.
You hear about
Yeah.
ischemic stroke and you hear about hemorrhagic stroke. Well, the ways to have an ischemic stroke are endless.
hmm
And the ways to get to a hemorrhagic stroke are just as endless, like seems to be just as endless. And I was missing this. This is what I was missing when I was going through it early on, trying to have this conversation with my wife every day for the last 13 years. She would have lost her marbles. This guy
Yeah.
won't shut up about this. Just stop.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't blame
Yeah.
her either. So this is my therapy, amongst other things. And I'm just, it's another thing I'm grateful for, you know, just, it's one of those sliding door moments. It's one of those, what else can we do with this? Where else opportunities? So I say that so that the people listening to us can go, maybe I'm going to take Emily's approach and I'm going to do one of the things that Emily suggested, and I'm going to think about
Mm.
things in one of the ways that Bill suggested. And if
hmm
that happens from these episodes, then we've changed the course of history for that person in a positive way.
hmm
And that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Job done. And it was
Yeah.
worth it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
joining me as
Yeah.
well. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. 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 This is great.
Well, before we finish, a quick thank you to Banksia Tech for supporting this episode and making tools like the Cerebo, Hansen, Rehab Glove, available and more accessible to stroke survivors. If you're working to improve hand function, whether it's early days or years into your recovery, this glove was made to support you. With 6 therapy modes, including a patented mirror function, it's built for progress at home without needing a clinic. It's also available as low-cost assistive technology, and international orders are welcome through the Banksia Tech website. Head to banksiatech.com.au or use the links in the show notes and YouTube description. Now, back to the conversation we just had. 17 years after her stroke during pregnancy, Emily isn't back to normal. She's something far more powerful, self-aware, intentional, and still growing. She's navigated motherhood with deficits, found her way into facial work and healing arts, and created space for her body to become a teacher and not just a battleground. If you're still waking up with fatigue, still figuring out how to trust your body, or still searching for who you are now, let this be your reminder. Healing isn't a finish line, it's a lifelong relationship with yourself. We'll catch you in the next one.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gasiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.